The following is a graphic depiction of a violent prehistoric battle. Viewer discretion is advised. It's the ultimate battle of the sexes. A male and female engage in a fight to the death. Now, new discoveries reveal the fight will go beyond bloodletting. It's a domestic dispute that will end with one dinosaur committing one of the most vicious acts of the prehistoric world. They're the Earth's first fighters, the ultimate predators. New discoveries in forensic science bring to life the prehistoric art of war. This is Jurassic Fight Club. Time travel back 70 million years ago to the prehistoric world. Two supercontinents, Laurasia and Gondwanaland, increasingly fracture. Wild animals evolve and adapt to a violent Earth. On Gondwanaland, volcanic activity transforms the chaotic terrain. Africa splits from South America. Then India breaks from Africa, leaving behind a landmass that will become Madagascar. On this lush green island, seasonal rains, as well as extreme droughts and dramatic temperature changes, have pitted dinosaur against dinosaur. In a world of vanishing food and water resources, predators are forced to fight for survival.
Life on Madagascar during the late Cretaceous was pretty difficult. The world's climate was changing and it forced dinosaurs to adapt. The larger the landmass, the less of an impact these changes had. But when you live on a small island, these changes are intensified. So to deal with them, dinosaurs on the island of Madagascar had to adapt in ways that other dinosaurs would never dream of.
1996. 25 miles outside of the city of Mahajanga in northwestern Madagascar. Paleontologists are on a routine excavation. But as they continue to dig, it's clear that there is something strange about this particular find. As scientists unearthed more remains, forensic and anatomical clues began to paint a picture of the unidentified dinosaur. One thing became clear. These bones did not belong to a plant eater. They belonged to a predator.
We can very often tell whether bones belong to herbivores or carnivores just by looking at them. In the big carnivorous dinosaurs, you have hollow bones. And hollow bones, of course, can support the animal as long as the bone around the outside is dense enough to support the weight of the animal.
In a lab, paleontologists observed something that stunned them. Peculiar marks and deep gashes in the bones. The gashes were spaced 10 to 17 millimeters apart. Scientists were amazed. These were bite marks. Could an epic fight have taken place here? Were paleontologists looking at a 70-million-year-old crime scene?
At first, the paleontologists had no idea who or what had made these markings on the bone. But using some of the same techniques that modern forensic scientists do today, they were able to solve the mystery of who it was that made these injuries over 70 million years ago.
Scientists first needed to identify the dinosaur. They turned to fossil evidence found in the same area. Close by was a remarkably well-preserved skull of a large predatory dinosaur. This predatory monster was a meat-eating dinosaur called Majungatholus. It was the T-Rex of the East. This remarkable discovery gave paleontologists an opportunity to see inside the skull of this rare dinosaur. Dr. Lawrence Whitmer of Ohio University is head of one of the most advanced dinosaur research laboratories in the world. Through today's technological advances, he is able to dig deeper into the stories of the bones and the brain cavity than ever before. CT scanning has opened a new door into dinosaur behavior and the mystery of what happened here.
CT scanning is a medical technology that allows us to look inside an object. But we can use that same technology on dinosaurs, to look inside their skulls, to see through the rock, to see how these animals are built. We can look at the bony brain cavity in CT scan, and from that, extract what the form of the brain was like, as well as all of the tissues that are surrounding that.
CT scanning of the skull of Majungatholus gave Whitmer and his team clues into every aspect of this predator. Its senses of vision, hearing, balance, and agility. By comparing the size and shape of the brain and inner ear canals to those of modern birds and reptiles, scientists now have unprecedented insight into the behavior of Majungatholus, how it lived, and how it could have fought. At first glance, the skull revealed some unusual details. The exterior was covered in a thick, rough texture, ending in a 3-inch thick horn that jutted from the top of the skull.
What makes this male Majungatholus look so odd are the bumps and strange horns and spikes that stuck out all over its skull. These are actually designed to show rivals that this male is a mature adult. They're also designed to attract a mate. These odd horns and spikes were probably brightly colored. These are makeup. It's the signal that screams to the ladies, check me out.
One of the interesting things about the horn of Majungatholus is that it is very rough and the bone is very sort of cauliflower-like and bumpy. And in fact, that bumpiness actually pertains to most of the skull.
The texture was a valuable clue. The male's head was not merely a hood ornament. It was a weapon that could be wielded against both rival and prey. A true battering ram.
One of the things that we think is going on with the bumpy skin of Majungatholus is that it relates to combat. They're potentially actually interacting in a very direct physical way, head-to-head or head-to-flank kind of combat. It's a very unusual kind of thing, the kinds of structures that we don't really see in animals like ceratosaurs, where the horns we see are almost delicate kind of structure. So what we see with Majungatholus is a kind of structure that was built for combat.
When you look at the design of the skull of Majungatholus, you can compare that to modern-day bighorn sheep. It's very heavily built and perfectly designed to take a heavy beating.
Majungatholus thrived and fought to the death more than 70 million years ago. Fossil evidence proved that the island of Madagascar teemed with a variety of plants and animals. But in the island paradise, Majungatholus was at the top of the food chain, the ultimate predator.
Every environment has an apex predator. That is the ultimate predator, the top of the food chain. On North America, Tyrannosaurus rex was that apex predator. But on the island of Madagascar, it was Majungatholus.
Majungatholus was the top predator in its community. In general, it would have spent its day stalking around for prey, killing something, and when it killed it, ate it, and rested for a while.
As more bones emerged from the possible crime scene, scientists began to get a clearer picture of the true size of this island terror. He was a two-legged predator, standing 9 feet tall, 28 feet long, and weighing 1 ton. The mass of a baby elephant. Along with its size and a reinforced head-butting skull, one weapon stood out that made Majungatholus even more dangerous. A mouthful of serrated, meat-slicing teeth. A closer inspection of the jaws would reveal that, like a shark, Majungatholus had rows of teeth that worked like a conveyor to continuously replace worn teeth.
The teeth of Majungatholus were pretty incredible. They were replaced throughout its entire life. When a tooth got dull, it would fall out and be replaced by a brand new tooth. They were also serrated on both the front and back edges, making them perfect for slicing meat.
But Majungatholus still had one additional weapon that was capable of delivering a lethal blow. Its massive tail. With reinforced bones and powerful muscles, the dinosaur could wield its tail like an oversized baseball bat. Although Majungatholus was a force to reckon with, it was not without its shortcomings. Even the king of the jungle had his weaknesses. The first was its unusually small arms.
Majungatholus's arm is incredibly short. It's got an upper arm bone, but its forearm has shrunken, so it's basically a wrist.
From the elbow to the hand is probably less than a foot. It definitely does not have any functional grasping ability. It doesn't have any slashing ability. It's basically a vestigial arm.
Its second drawback was its legs, which were relatively short compared to its overall body size.
The length of dinosaur legs certainly had an effect on how fast they were. Animals with longer legs were presumably faster than animals with shorter legs.
What we see in Majungatholus is an animal that's not built for speed. This is an animal that was pretty fast, but still not the kind of swift-footed runner that we see in other kinds of dinosaurs.
It is estimated that Majungatholus may have been able to run only 10 to 15 miles per hour, not much faster than an average human. But given its densely forested environment, speed may not have been as important to this hunter.
It didn't have to be particularly fast because there were no really fast dinosaurs known from its environment. So you only have to be faster than your meal. You don't have to be faster than something else that you're never going to see.
CAT scan evidence revealed the dinosaur's third weakness: poor vision.
With Majungatholus, we can look at the brain structure and see that the visual centers are not tremendously enlarged. They're relatively modest. One of the really interesting aspects of the visual system is whether these animals had binocular vision. In other words, did their visual fields overlap? Because that actually provides depth perception.
Majungatholus has very limited binocular vision. The construction of their skull made it a little bit more difficult to get that binocular vision. So as they're sizing each other up, they're going to be really kind of looking from side to side, but if one moves quickly, it's going to get out of that binocular vision. So there'll be a lot of juggling for position between these guys, kind of like boxers will do before they start their fight.
Somehow, an apex predator at the top of the food chain was attacked and killed. The attacker was unknown. Fossil evidence has given investigators new insight into the behavior of Majungatholus and what could have happened at this site. But a new clue lies just inches below the surface of the soil. A discovery will reveal one of the most disturbing pieces of dinosaur evidence ever unearthed. Halfway around the world, paleontologists have unearthed the remains of a dinosaur named Majungatholus. The bones had deep gouges and wounds, suggesting that a massive battle had taken place. The bite marks were so violent that they left embedded gashes in the bone. It is here where the investigation took a surprising turn. Paleontologists continued to study the scene and look more closely at the marks. What they found would reveal evidence of one of the most gruesome acts in the animal kingdom: cannibalism. There were two Majungatholuses in this battle. One apex predator killed another.
On the island of Madagascar, they made a pretty incredible discovery. They found the fossilized skeleton of a Majungatholus with bite marks from another Majungatholus. This is absolute evidence that a battle took place and one Majungatholus killed the other.
The common perception is that most predatory dinosaurs were cannibals. But in fact, this discovery would become the first clear case of dinosaur cannibalism ever found in the prehistoric world.
When the paleontologists studied the tooth marks, they used high-powered microscopes to look deeper into the evidence. What they found were telltale signs of serrations, meaning the culprit who chewed these bones had serrated teeth and jaws powerful enough to cut the bone. Since no other dinosaur on Madagascar had been found with teeth this large, it pretty much ruled out all other predators.
Measuring the width, length, and serrated edges of the teeth, and calculating the spacing between the teeth in the jaw, investigators were able to determine that the teeth and jaws of Majungatholus matched the gash marks in the bone almost perfectly.
Majungatholus has serrated teeth. Each one of those little serrations is called a denticle. The denticle marks found in the bones were spaced about 0.48 millimeters apart. In studying Majungatholus teeth, paleontologists discovered that they had an average spacing of about 0.5 millimeters. That's nearly identical to those left on the bone.
What began as a routine dig was shaping up to be a battle to end all battles. Two Majungatholus in a fight to the death. But one question remained. Were these bite marks just the result of a fight? Or did one Majungatholus actually eat the other?
We know this wasn't just fighting, not just bite marks on the snout, for example. These are tooth marks that are on the inside bones of the body, on leg bones and backbones and ribs that you couldn't get to from the outside. So clearly, at least on occasion, Majungatholus ate other Majungatholus.
Now that scientists had proof that they were looking at cannibalism, what other evidence is there to piece together how these cannibals would have fought in this battle? In addition to the CAT scans and the fossil remains, paleontologists must study modern animal behavior for clues.
The one thing that doesn't change in the animal kingdom is behavior. All animals, including man, have the same basic behavioral traits as our ancestors. Knowing this, paleontologists are able to look at modern life as a way to understand the behavior of prehistoric life.
There is little doubt that a male Majungatholus was a formidable creature. But now a new theory arose that would dramatically change the dynamic of the fight. What about the females? While studying the fossil site, investigators had to ask the question, could one of the dinosaurs in this battle be female? It's a question that would not be easy to answer, but studying the fossilized remains of similar dinosaurs and looking to modern animals for clues, paleontologists attempt to answer the question. The first step was to find out how female dinosaurs sized up compared to males.
Majungatholus, like most theropods, most meat-eating dinosaurs, there was probably a sexual size difference between the males and the females. In Tyrannosaurus rex, we know that the biggest and baddest ones were females, but we don't know yet, because we don't have enough specimens, how Majungatholus fit into that scheme.
Although there may have been a difference in size, their basic skeletal design would have remained the same. The female would have had the same short arms and legs, sharp teeth, and powerful tail. But what about their general appearance? Would the male and female look alike?
When we look at lots of different kind of animals today, and people are a good example, the males and the females look different. We call that sexual dimorphism. And a good question is was Majungatholus sexually dimorphic? Did the males look different from the females?
Once we look at theropod dinosaurs, virtually any species where we have multiple specimens, we do see that there tends to be two morphs or two types once you get to the adult stage. One may be heavier than the other, for example. The other may be more lightly built, more gracile, or it may be that they have a difference in the crest on top of the head, or the bump on the top of the head in the case of Majungatholus. Unfortunately for Majungatholus and most theropod dinosaurs, we don't have a lot of specimens to work with.
But there's a clue. Remarkably, over the past 2 decades, numerous fossil discoveries, including feathered dinosaurs, have proven a relationship between birds and predatory dinosaurs. From this fossil evidence, paleontologists believe that, like in male birds, the male Majungatholus would have been more brightly colored and adorned than the female.
In order to understand things like color and behavior of prehistoric life, we have to look to modern life to give us those clues. Well, Majungatholus and birds are related. We know that. The evidence is very clear. And birds, the males, have a much brighter color pattern. Male birds also have strange ornamentation on their skull. Look at a guinea fowl or look at a turkey. You'll find that the female skulls are relatively plain and the male skulls are very bright and have a lot of these fleshy appendages that make them attractive.
One thing that we can sort of suggest is that animals that clearly had visual display organs, things on their body, is that they probably used them. It's very reasonable to suggest that these different kinds of structures that we see on the skull of Majungatholus or even other kinds of predatory dinosaurs are in fact the kinds of features that would be used in courtship displays among these different kinds of animals.
Along with skin color, ornamentation of their skulls, and their body sizes, there was another clear difference between the sexes. She was a warrior. The female was much more aggressive when defending her young. It's a vital piece of information. Paleontologists believe that this actually helped hone her fighting skills.
A full-grown Majungatholus is pretty much able to take care of itself. But babies are a different matter. There's a lot of animals that would love to be able to snuff you out when you're little so that you don't ever grow to full size. Females got to deal with not only things that want to harm her, but things that want to harm her young. And there's a lot more animals that are willing to step up against a baby than there are against an adult. So the female is forced to defend not only herself, but her baby from predators. And that's what gives her fight skills that a male will never have.
As in any investigation, the environment plays a crucial role in piecing together any mystery. The prehistoric world is no exception. Like a modern-day battlefield, scientists must study the climate and terrain in which they would have fought. We know that the land 70 million years ago varied from densely forested to jungle-like to swampy. Based on the variety of plants, Madagascar would have seen seasonal changes and times of severe drought. Evergreen and conifer trees, reaching 100 feet high, covered much of the landscape.
If you look at any forest today, like Yellowstone Park, for instance, we've done a great job of clearing out the fallen logs and debris that usually litter the forest floor. Of course, back then, that wouldn't have happened. So moving through those forests could have been incredibly difficult, especially during a fight.
As it turns out, the terrain would play a vital part in this investigation. Paleontologists now know that the bones were moved. And not only that, they were moved very soon after the dinosaur died. This tells us one thing: flash flood.
Looking at the geology of the dig site, paleontologists could see that the bones had been washed into their final resting place. This location was not where the battle had taken place. It's simply where the remains of the eaten dinosaur ended up. The evidence suggests that floodwaters carried them there.
In late 2007, experts first began to reconstruct a plausible ramp-up to this battle from 70 million years ago. A male Majungatholus could have entered the territory of a female. His motive was sex, but she has other ideas. When approached by a male, the female would have been very cautious until she understood his intentions. To protect herself and her territory, she must make it clear that she is no pushover. Paleontologists think that to ensure her safety, the female could have relied on 3 distinctive moves before launching into an attack. The first move is to stand her ground.
When you're approached by a rival, the last thing you want to do is turn tail and run. First, it means you lose your territory, but worse, your rival might think you're food. The rules of the animal kingdom are pretty clear. Break one of these rules and you're liable to end up dead.
She would then have moved to step 2. Turning her body sideways will show the male her massive size. Next came the flash of those razor-sharp teeth. Baring her teeth would send a very clear signal to an aggressor. Once the female would have made her rival aware of her disposition, it is up to him to convince her that he is here to mate, not kill.
Mating can be a pretty dangerous thing if the object of your desire has 3-inch-long serrated teeth and a bad attitude. The first thing she's going to suspect is that you're there to challenge her for territory. The male had better do everything possible to show this female that he is not a threat.
To demonstrate his intentions and change her mood, the male would have begun to perform a courtship dance. CAT scan evidence shows that the brain of Majungatholus was incredibly small and therefore primitive, leading paleontologists to speculate that this dance would have been very simple.
Certainly given the brain size of something like Majungatholus, which has a relatively primitive brain, we would expect them to have the kinds of primitive, very ritualized courtship rituals that we see in lizards and crocodiles today. Very stereotyped, rigid kinds of courtship behaviors.
Although the male tries his best, the female is not receptive. He has no idea that he's dancing with the devil. Ripped from the continent of Gondwanaland by the violent upheavals of the Earth's tectonic plates, the island of Madagascar is born. Surrounded by sea, the island quickly becomes a lush green Garden of Eden. But evolution has a way of spoiling this pristine environment. A terrifying inhabitant emerged, Majungatholus. In these steamy jungles, a colossal battle of the sexes took place. Was this just a lover's spat, or was there more to this story? To help piece together a viable scenario, paleontologists would size up the competitors. The skeletal design of Majungatholus shows that these were very powerful animals. But was there a difference in size and strength between male and female?
We do see some differences between the different specimens that we find of Majungatholus. It's hard for us to know whether those are just differences between different individuals or differences that we can associate to differences in sex. Both of these animals will probably be fairly comparable in terms of their general size and strength and general capabilities.
Although these were not considered giant predators, they were still packed with muscle. What effect would this have on their speed and agility?
Majungatholus is not necessarily a fast and agile animal. It doesn't have to be. It lived on an island, and the prey animals that lived with it were relatively slow. But I think the female would have been a little bit faster and more agile than the male.
You know that in this particular group of dinosaurs, when you look at the attachments of the muscles in the legs, that there's some slight differences between the males and the females. The fact that there's a stronger shelf in what we think are the males seems to suggest stronger muscle attachments, and that means that they may have had more powerful muscles in the legs, which may mean that on one hand they were stronger, but maybe on the other hand they were not as fast.
In addition to their formidable build, the male and female hold a jaw full of serrated teeth and a domed head used as a battering ram. They used both when they went head-to-head on the battlefield.
We have the same weapons, basically the same weapons. There's no more teeth, no fewer teeth, there's no difference in design of teeth. It's only in what's going on in their brain and what's going on in their automatic responses to things that are built up over lifetime experiences.
When it comes to attacking an adversary, the sexes are quite different. The male acquired hunting skills necessary to capture prey or a suitable mate. However, like modern birds and reptiles, the mother racked up more hours on the front lines as a defensive fighter, protecting her offspring.
Now, if the female were actually defending its young, then that, in a sense, changes the equation, and consequently, the intensity of battle might be different. Because at that point, the intensity wouldn't be just about a meal or about territory. It would be about her heritage, her genes, and her future.
Life on Madagascar was a difficult struggle for an adult Majungatholus, but survival for a juvenile was nearly impossible without the protection of an adult.
Being confined on the island of Madagascar in the late Cretaceous was pretty tough, because what it did is it took all of the dinosaurs and forced them into a very small area. So unlike animals on the mainland, where the female could leave the juveniles unattended while she hunted, on Madagascar, because all these animals were confined in such a small space, it was much more likely that somebody would happen across these babies. And when you're an unprotected baby, there's a tremendous amount of danger.
In the dark, dense forests of Madagascar, danger came in many forms. But one in particular, isolationism, had an effect that would turn this island paradise into a prison where only one sentence was carried out: death.
On an island where you're separated from others, it means the chances of meeting a mate from the opposite sex are reduced. And more importantly, it means that those that you meet, you could very well be very closely related to. So the number one problem is inbreeding. And with inbreeding comes a couple of very nasty side effects, like you have less of a tolerance for disease, your bone structure can be weaker, you're a lot more susceptible to early death. But the number one problem with inbreeding is that the possibility of creating mutations exists. Majungatholus may have had that ugly face because it was the end result of inbreeding.
Relying on evidence collected from the dig sites and knowledge of modern animal behavior, experts can recreate a plausible scenario where a female competes with a male in a final fight to the death. You are about to see a graphic depiction of a violent prehistoric battle. Viewer discretion is advised. Planet Earth, 70 million years ago. A male Majungatholus is on the prowl for a female.
He picks up the scent of a female Majungatholus. He knows it's a female simply by her scent. He moves in cautiously, knowing that if she has a mate, there could be a confrontation.
Slowly, cautiously, the male moves further into her territory, following her scent like a road map.
He works his way towards the center of her territory, looking for this female. He finds her. She's in a small open clearing surrounded by very dense vegetation. He moves in and begins to demonstrate his intentions. He's not an aggressor. He is simply trying to woo her into mating. He goes through a series of steps designed to put her into a non-defensive mood. She doesn't react the way he expects, and he doesn't understand it.
The female is uninterested in his advances.
He sways slowly back and forth again to try to describe to her his intention. She refuses to accept his advances. She bares her teeth and hisses with a deep, rumbling growl. This is a clear message that she's looking for a fight. The Majungatholus male continues his dance to try to entice her, but she will not respond. She continues in an aggressive posture. The male tries to shift his position, perhaps put her in a different area, and see if that will change her mood.
But the female's focus is not exclusively on the male.
As he moves to the side, he realizes that hidden behind her is her offspring. The male knows immediately. That's the reason why the female is not responsive to his reproductive dance.
The male realizes the female will not be responsive as long as her offspring is alive.
He knows he's got to get rid of that baby. In his brain, his mind switches over from reproduction to killing. He needs to take out that baby, and he needs to do it without being killed himself.
The female becomes suspicious of the male's sudden change in attitude. Her maternal instincts shift into overdrive.
She knows he's seen the baby. She puts herself between the baby and the male as the male slowly begins to outflank her and outmaneuver her to have access to the baby.
The baby lays motionless, but the male has already spotted him. He needs to take him out.
The male lowers his head and rushes in, mouth agape, trying to grab the baby. But the female is quick to react and lowers her head and rams the male with incredible power. The male, being bigger, recovers relatively quickly and turns to face the female. He knows that he may have to attack the female in order to get to the juvenile. He doesn't want to kill the female, but he will if he believes his life is in jeopardy. Although the male is larger in size, the female can match that with incredible ferocity. She's defending her young and will fight to the death.
The male turns his attention back towards the female. The female knows that the male has seen her offspring. Enraged, she kicks up dirt like a mad bull, pawing the ground before charging. The male has got to be careful. He knows a protective mother can be extremely violent, but his reproductive urges outweigh caution.
They go through a series of steps, each trying to intimidate the other, but it doesn't work. The male is intent on reproduction, and the female is intent on defending her young. The male is intent on killing that juvenile, and the female is intent on defending him.
The male again moves in for the kill, but the female shifts sideways and swats him with her powerful tail. The male absorbs the blow and regains his footing. He launches a second frontal assault. The female again thwarts his advances. The male attempts to lure the female further away from her baby. He makes a series of mock charges and draws back with each one. Once she is far enough away from the baby, the male rushes her head on. The female loses sight of her surroundings.
She trips on the log and falls to the ground. This is the opportunity the male's been waiting for. The female Majungatholus made one fatal error. She was so focused on defending her baby, she lost track of her environment. When you place a big foot like Majungatholus has on the ground, you better be assured of your footing, and she wasn't. And that's what tripped her up and gave the male his opportunity.
The male advances towards the defenseless baby. With the female now out of the picture, he seizes his best chance to go for the kill. With his razor-sharp teeth, he grabs the unguarded baby. Although the male has made the first kill, this battle is just beginning. "70 million years ago, a baby Majungatholus is snatched from his mother. The male knows he needs to kill the offspring in order to successfully mate with the mother.
The male Majungatholus has this baby in his jaws. He shakes and crushes it with tremendous force. The juvenile lays helpless in his jaws.
For a brief moment, the jungle is silent. Then suddenly, from out of the brush, the female charges into view. The mother goes for the jugular.
She now launches an attack on the male and grabs him by the rear of the neck. Using all the power she has, she crushes the vertebra in the male's neck.
The male drops the baby as he slumps to the ground. He's unable to move.
She severed his spinal cord. He's completely helpless, but still alive. The female leans down and sniffs her baby to look for signs of life. There's absolutely no movement, and she knows the baby's dead.
Although she risked her life to save her young, the female Majungatholus is incapable of mourning.
The brain of a dinosaur works like a light switch. There's an on and there's an off. They only think of one thing at a time. They live in the very moment they're in. When she realized that her baby was dead, the female Majungatholus's brain switched over from maternal to dinner. She now sees her baby as a food source. She's got to replenish the calories she burned fighting the male. Her baby is the first course. The male is the main course.
But the female isn't fully satiated. She now turns her attention to her second victim.
He's still alive, but he can't move. He makes a perfect target, and he's gonna get eaten alive.
She leans over, rips open his stomach, and continues her feeding frenzy.
The female Majungatholus shoves her head into the stomach cavity of the male. She's seeking the most nutritious parts. She pulls her blood-covered nose out of the stomach, and in her jaws are the liver. This is the most precious part of her prey. The liver is usually the first thing predators are going to eat. It's the largest organ in the body, and more importantly, it's rich in vitamins and iron, and this is something predatory dinosaurs crave.
The cannibal dinosaur will continue to gorge until her gut is full.
This is not an act of vengeance. The female Majungatholus eats the male for sustenance, not to get even for what it did to her young.
Although these monsters appeared evenly matched, the male's miscalculations and missed opportunities cost him the fight and his life.
Had the male Majungatholus found this baby unguarded, it would have killed it. When the female would return, she would instantly go into reproductive mode because she didn't have a baby to defend. But because she was there defending the young, the moment the male killed it, she instantly attacked it in an effort to save the baby.
Despite the female's victory, her species eventually loses a bigger battle. They became extinct 65 million years ago.
Majungatholus faced the exact same consequences all animals do during an environmental change. The island of Madagascar was drifting further out to sea. Plant life suffered first. As those plants began to disappear, herbivores that lived on them began to disappear. And that left Majungatholus with having nothing left on the menu except for another Majungatholus.
Paleontologists are currently prospecting for more clues about this elusive cannibal dinosaur.
As people continue to explore Madagascar for more fossils, some of the things we'd really like to see about Majungatholus are there really differences between the sexes? And in order to test that idea, we need more skulls.
Scientists still continue to search for the differences between the sexes of this dinosaur species. But one thing's certain, 70 million years ago, one Majungatholus showed another who's boss on the prehistoric battlefields of Madagascar. Next week on Jurassic Fight Club. He was the king of all dinosaurs. But to one rival, he was prey. New science reveals how Tyrannosaurus Rex, the most aggressive hunter ever, became the hunted.